What a pleasure it is today to participate in the EFT International monthly event, right? So we're doing EFT for August, and I'm pleased to participate in sharing a little information about managing emotional and physical pain. And so for those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a little bit of a history of who I am, and then I'll share a little information about why I have something to share about emotional and physical pain and how to release it. So my name is Deborah Denise Miller. I have a doctorate in cell and molecular biology, so I like things that are very scientific, as well as complementary techniques like tapping, which also has a scientific portion. So I've studied a lot of science, and I've also studied a lot of techniques, anything from Reiki to Diksha to emotional freedom techniques or tapping, and also coaching. And so now I've been doing tapping since 2003, and since 2007, I have been supporting children with cancer and their family members in a hospital setting deal with the whole emotional and physical pain that goes along with having any illness whatsoever, plus private clients. So that's a little, just tiny bit of my background. And I created a short little presentation so we can talk about a little bit about tapping, a little bit about the scientific portion, but in very simple terms. And then we'll play around a little bit and see what happens, okay? So let me go to share screen, and I will share. Okay. I'm going to do this one. Okay. There we go. All right, so managing emotional and physical pain. And I know everyone in the world has some emotional pain or some physical pain because that's part of being a human being and living in this world. So I want to look at some basic information about what physical pain is. So technically, physical pain is caused by some sort of tissue damage, right? Or neuronal damage or things like that. So our body's defense system is using pain as a signal. It's giving you a warning. You need to pay attention to something. So it's really not there to harm you and make you feel awful. It's just saying, hey, open up your eyes, pay attention, because there's something that you need to pay attention to or take care of, okay? So obviously there's pain if you break a bone, or there's pain from arthritis, from that inflammation that makes things stiff. It's also giving an information. Cancer is information. You burn yourself, there's pain associated with it. There's pain after surgery to let you know to maybe not move so rigorously and take it easy and relax until your body has a chance to heal. Migraine pain, headache pain, muscle spasms. Those are just a few examples of something that we would call physical pain, okay? But we can also look at emotional pain. And what is emotional pain? It's a sense of loss or incompleteness of self and an awareness of one's role in the experience of emotional pain, okay? So we always talk about emotional pain, right? You know, a broken heart, we even talk about things like that. He broke my heart, or she broke my heart when they didn't return my love. Sadness and grief is a type of emotional pain. Disappointment is even an emotional type of pain. Shame, guilt, right? It feels painful when we think that we did something that may have harmed someone else, particularly when it was unintentional. Anger and rage are also types of emotional pain where we are out of balance and feel powerless, and that anger comes up to give us some sense of power or justice, or even to revenge. We can use those sorts of things. Fear is a common emotional pain, and everyone has felt fear at some point. It's a basic human emotion that is there. We feel emotional pain when we're rejected. We feel when we're lonely, or when we have some type of emotional trauma, which may be like mental, emotional, or physical abuse, or a childhood experience that was really traumatic. And it could be even from the loss of a parent or grandparent, or being in a war situation and what you grew up in the trauma of that. So we have all these what we call emotional pain. So we're talking labels here. right? Physical pain, emotional pain. But the interesting thing is, as we look at this, there's a lot of times that emotional pain causes physical pain, right? So let's just go back to the heartbreak, right? It's like, oh, well, somebody doesn't want to stay with them anymore. And we're like, oh, he broke my heart. Well, it's an emotional pain because we've lost a sense of who we are and our identification, and we feel that loss. But I would find it rare that you find a person who doesn't feel physical pain when that emotional heartbreak is going on, right? Our heart feels an ache. We feel, more pushed into the center. We're holding back, et cetera, et cetera. We cry. So our body is now also responding to the emotions that are also having a portion or an effect on creating physical pain as well. So the two are linked, even though in the past they were always trying to be separated. You either had an emotional problem or a physical problem. And so here's just one psychologist who was studying trauma and depression. And she said, studies have shown that chronic pain might not only be caused by physical injury, but also by stress and emotional issues. So as the science gets better, as we do more studying into quantum physics, what we're starting to understand is this emotional field, the field around us and in us and around ourselves and around the planet is what connects all of us. And so sometimes we feel our own emotional pain for something that's going on to us, but when we see traumatic experiences occurring to others, we can also have an emotional reaction to that causes us an emotional pain. That shouldn't happen to someone, or, a shooting or a war. We can feel that and incorporate it. And yes, it is ours. But if we start looking at quantum physics, then what we're doing is we're looking at this overall field that connects us all, right? That space, or that ether as it used to be called in the past. And we perceive things that may be ours or may not actually be our very own, but something in the field of humanity that causes us pain. So if we think about separation, look at all the separation in humanity right now, right? Separation between families and couples and children and their parents, and then between even people in the same country or between different countries and the wars. It's causing a huge amount of emotional pain in the world. And as humans, we are set up to create tribes and community. And so it is emotionally painful to have such separation in the world. And so a lot of things are going on right now that are occurring that makes us think that, wow, we need to start changing this. Something needs to help us release this emotional pain in the world, help us recover, help us connect, and help us release this and go back into the emotion that we all want to feel, which is love or peace or connection. So we're going to mix a little bit of, that emotional and physical pain, and we'll play around with it a little bit today. And because I have a scientific background, I want to explain certain things with a very simple scientific explanation of some of the things that are going on as we look at emotional and physical pain. Okay? I'm going to go back over here. So what is the body's physiological response to emotional and physical pain? Because now if we look at the physical pain as, tension or stress or damage within the physical body, and then the emotional part, which is related and connecting, what's happening in our physical body, okay? So if we just want to look at this in general, so we have a sympathetic nervous system that turns on what we call fight, flight, and freeze. That is our natural response. It's an ancient response to any kind of stressor, physical, mental, emotional. What happens in our body is, let's say something scares you. And so immediately in the hypothalamus, we get a danger signal. Okay, so the danger signal comes through what we call the amygdala, which is a tiny, tiny little organ, actually two of them, size of an almond, in the middle of our brain. So it's basically just an alert system. It's just listening, paying attention. Is there danger, not danger? It's a warning system, and it's really important because, like, if you step out on the street and there's a bus coming and that warning system isn't turned on, you're not going to react quickly enough to jump back onto the sidewalk. Simple example, right? So we need this. But the problem is today is that alert system is basically turned on almost all the time. So this system was set up so that it turns on, gets you to react, gets you to move, to fight, or to move into the flight mode, or to freeze to protect yourself, and then it's supposed to turn off, okay? So what it normally does, it hears a warning message, it sends a message down your central nervous system, it goes into the endocrine system, and it turns on our stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. Okay, so adrenaline, noradrenaline, that gives you the gusto to run. That's what makes your heartbeat kick up. That's what makes your breathing go faster, gets your muscles all prepared to respond, right? So this helps you save your life in a life and death situation. Cortisol causes inflammation if it's turned on too long. So the disadvantage is that it hinders your health if it's turned on long term. And as I was just saying, this is one of the things that's been happening. It gets turned on. So now we go, instead of a life-threatening situation, like the tiger in the past or the bus example that I gave you, our internet goes out for 20 minutes and we go into high stress like we're in a life and death situation. And it's not. It's just a stressful situation. And we haven't learned how to manage it. So that creates a huge problem, okay? So what happens after a normal stress, back to the bus situation, step into the street, the bus is coming, you realize it, and you jump back out, right? Okay, you're going, oh my goodness, I'm saved. Yeah, I'm okay. And then all of a sudden, your parasympathetic nervous system turns on. And what it does is it turns off the other system that turns on all the fight, flight, and freeze. So now what happens, you start to breathe more calmly, your heart rate slows back down, your muscles start to relax, all that tension in them starts to relax. And now you're really going into a rejuvenative state, okay? So this is the state that your body's in that helps you create health, okay? So it promotes digestion, it helps your whole normal function in your body, and it helps produce hormones, oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins. Okay, the endorphins are the feel-good hormones, like serotonin, which is why so many of us like chocolate, because it creates serotonin for us to feel good and healthy and happy, right? Dopamine gives us lots of energy, and oxytocin is the love hormone, right? This is why mothers and babies holding each other is really important, why we connect with friends through hugs. Those are things that help us go into a relaxation response, or regenerative response is also another way to look at this. And this is really important, okay? So all of that is just the hormonal physiological response to what's going on. But we have a subconscious response as well. So we have the conscious mind, it's the thinking mind, it's the one that says, get up, go in the kitchen, get something to eat, you know, turn off the light, go to this, go to work, do all those sorts of things. But underneath all of that, we have what I call the autopilot, which is our subconscious system, all right? So, you know, when you were a kid, you had to learn how to walk, but once you learned how to walk, you didn't have to learn how to do it every day, because now it's gone into autopilot, right? Which is a good thing. So you don't have to learn to tie your shoes, how to use silverware, how to get dressed, how to drive a car over and over and over again. So now when you drive a car, you're probably 90% automatic pilot. It's like your subconscious is driving you. And you're kind of paying attention to the red lights and the green lights, but you're listening to music, you're talking to somebody, you're thinking about what you have to do while you're driving, right? So we have all these subconscious beliefs. So when we're children, we have been trained, right, in emotional pain and emotional happiness as well. We've been trained all of those things. And so what happens, those patterns and all the things that we learned when we were children now becomes part of our subconscious, or part of our autopilot. So we can even have physical pains that occur. So I told you I work with children with cancer as one of the things that I do. And I found many times with the children in the hospital, they would come in frequently, and there they received more attention than they did at home. They got 100% attention, right? So in some cases, creating an illness within our body, even if it's just as simple as a cold, you don't have to have an illness like cancer, or some other illness, or even a headache, it provides us with attention. So as a child, learning that, sometimes people create a pattern then, well, if I feel bad, I get attention. Okay? So these are little patterns that get created within our body that are now tying that physical, emotional response together. Okay? So we're going to look at all that. How does that pay attention? It may be true and it may not be true. Okay? And some people get ill because then they get left alone, for example. Right? So we've got all kinds of patterns that get created and they're stored in our subconscious mind. And most of them we're not even thinking about anymore, which is why I call it the automatic pilot, right? Certain things happen, you respond with anger, you respond with sadness. And you do it automatically. You don't go, oh, I'm going to get angry about this. The anger is just immediately there. Because you've learned at one point that that was a saving mechanism. And now it's just automatic. So what we want to do is keep finding what those old patterns are and bring them to our conscious mind and then make choices about how to change them. Okay? So we can look and play around with these sorts of things and see how we can make all of this different and better. So one of the techniques I use is emotional freedom techniques, or tapping, EFT, has many names at this point. So I love it because it's powerful. And I love it because it's really easy. So working with children who have cancer, for example, they have enough needles in their life. Anybody who has an illness has enough needles in their life, if they're in a hospital situation. So we call it acupuncture for emotions without needles, because we are tapping on meridian endpoints that are stimulating our body. And actually, if we go back to those graphs that I was showing before, it's actually talking to our warning system and saying, oh, wait, is this real or not real? What can we do about this? How can we turn off that fight and flight and those stress hormones and go back into the relaxation and regenerative hormones? So we can use emotional freedom techniques as a way to check in with the warning system, figure out where it's coming from, and then actually do something about it. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that if you have an illness, you shouldn't go check with your doctor. You need to take care of yourself. But there's a lot of things that we can do with emotional freedom techniques to help release emotional pain and physical pain in a very complementary way to whatever way you are managing whatever's happening in your system. Okay? All right. So I want to give just a few examples so you can understand. We'll start with physical pain, and then I'll go into some of the kind of physical and emotional pain. So Rolando is an example of a teenager who had osteosarcoma. So he had a bone cancer in his femur. Okay? So he was in a state of pain for several days, even to the point where he wouldn't even talk to anybody. And so finally one day he's kind of present, and I'm having a chat with him, and we decided to do a little bit of tapping because his pain level, when I asked him on a scale of 0 to 10, was 10. So he was living pain, experiencing pain, and nothing else at that point. When you're at a 10 on a level of pain, you don't think about anything else. So he didn't want to eat, he wasn't sleeping well, he didn't want to talk to anybody because all he could focus on was pain. So as we were doing the tapping and just looking at the pain and removing the pain and doing the technique of tapping to focus on it and release it from his system. And now we're also helping his body release the stress hormones and increase the relaxation hormones. His level of pain went from a 10 down to a 1.5. Okay. Now, it didn't take his tumor away. I mean, that was still there. Okay. But in that moment, he could now eat, talk with his sister who was there, focus on what he wanted was healing instead of just focusing on pain. So we can use EFT as a pain management system, complementary to everything else that was happening and what he was using in the hospital. And then we can also look at what are the emotional pains underneath. So another time I was working with him, and we started looking at some of the underlying reasons of why he was feeling so much pain in his life. And as we were doing the tapping, which helps things come up out of the subconscious and become conscious, I was asking him, well, what is so painful in your life, basically? And his response was that there was so much fighting in his community, and it pained him, right? And because he was a very sensitive young man, he stored that emotional pain within himself because he was not taught how to release it. And so in case that has an emotional effect that augmented the pain that he had in his physical body, right? So I look at it as the two were working together to create illness in his body, right? But as you release the emotional pain of what's going on in your community, then you can start being present without having to store it within your body. He was not taught how to release that or create more harmony in his community, right? And so in his case, he stored it within himself. Okay, let's look at Diego. Diego, at the time, was about 3.5, and he was waiting for spinal tap. So I had taught him how to do tapping to calm himself and be prepared to have a spinal tap, and then how to use tapping afterward to relax again and calm down. So some of it is just relaxing your body, being prepared, knowing this was going to happen. And so his parents told me, said one day he was doing tapping before he was going in for a spinal tap. And they said, what are you doing that for? And in the beauty of a 3.5-year-old, he says, because it hurts less. What else does a 3.5-year-old need? He doesn't need any of the science explanation. He just needs to know it's useful. Okay, so we can use tapping whether you understand the science behind it or not. And you can use it as a way to calm, relax yourself, and create a less stressful situation, right? Cynthia, hers was more fear. She was afraid of needles. And of course, as a child with cancer, she was having IVs put in all the time. And so we just did tapping on her fear of needles. And I asked her as an image how she could get rid of her fear. And she saw it as a big balloon. And she used a needle to pop the balloon to get rid of her fear of the needles, which I thought was ironic. So a child afraid of needles uses a needle to pop what she gave as an image of fear of needles, right? So we can use this in very simple ways, very symbolic ways. The pictures I have here are of Hilda. She is an amazing young woman. And when I first met her, she also had bone cancer. And they put a prosthesis in her left leg, and she was doing really well. We got rid of her fear of walking and being able to do everything she could do. And then she had a relapse. And as you can see, she ended up having a relapse and she lost her left leg, right? So for most people, this is now physical pain, emotional pain, lack of enthusiasm for living. Why? What's the reason to keep living? And in her case, we did some more tapping. She got her desire back to live, and she is one of the most amazing young women that I know. She's now 19, and she used tapping, got involved with doing wheelchair basketball, wheelchair races, and she wins gold medals. And the picture, she was learning to ride a regular bike, right? And she one day would like to have a prosthesis so she could run in sports. She's finished high school online. She wants to study architecture and create ecological homes. Okay, so in her case, we dealt with emotional pain as well as physical pain to create a different way of looking at life and taking care of oneself. Okay, she's an amazing example for me, you know. So for those who don't know what tapping is a technique where we are tapping on meridian endpoints. And this image just shows some of them. So we tap on top of the head, on the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, under the chin, the collarbone point, so it's like right below the collarbone point. And we can do under the arms. And I like to do the two wrists together. Those are some of my favorite points, okay? So by tapping on those points, remember now we're having another conversation with the amygdala, that warning system, to say, hey, wait a second. Let's take another look. Let's start calming down. Let's lower the stress hormones. And let's start having a better look at what's going on underneath. So as a scientist, I love the kind of investigative portion of this where I'm always looking, what's coming up? What are we going to find that's underneath that we can release, okay? And we can do it very simply. Working with children with cancer, I do this as well with adults. I use colors, I use images, because most of us do not want to look at the underlying reasons. We don't want to know what's under there. So we can make it very simple and fun, and that's another reason that I like tapping, particularly for emotional and physical pain. We can do it in a very simple, fun way.
De acuerdo, gracias.
Okay?
Estamos en contacto.
Okay, all right, so let's look at something for tapping for physical pain, okay? So one of the things we can do is we can just do a little bit of tapping together. We can see what comes up, and so we can play around with this. So this is just kind of like a little example of how can we use this? What can we do well with this? So if, everyone just takes a second and kind of, focus in on your body. It's like, are your shoulders tight? Are your legs tired? Do you have tension in your neck? Is there a place in your body that feels any physical pain? Okay. All right, and I'll unmute here. So if anybody wants to share, if they have a physical pain, and let's just check on it, on a scale of 0 to 10. How high is that pain in your body? Okay. Do you want to? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, my right leg is aching at this time because I had just gotten back from my walk, and I usually take a day off of walking a week.
Yeah.
But this is my 7th day, and
Okay.
my body's telling me it hurts.
Yeah. Okay. And a scale of 0 to 10, how strong is that pain?
Oh, it's a 4.
It's a 4. Okay. All right. So we don't have to have pain that's a level 10 to use tapping, which is really great. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. We have someone here, PC. I don't know if you want to share. Do you have any physical pain that you would like to share? No, es good. No, well, sounds like he's speaking one in Spanish. No te oigo. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll just look at this. So everybody find your physical pain, and we'll just do a little bit of tapping together. Just kind of play with it, see what goes on. Okay. All right. All right. So I'll do this. I'll do the tapping points. I'll indicate where. I'll use some very, very simple phrases, and then we'll just check in. Okay. All right. So even though I have this physical pain, and then what you'll do is repeat that phrase out loud if you can, and if you can't, then you say it in your mind. Okay. I love and accept myself. Even though I have this physical pain in my leg, in my shoulders, in my stomach, headache, whatever it is, I choose to accept that I want to feel better. Right? And even though I have this physical pain, because something I did, or even because even though I don't know why, I choose to accept myself. Okay, we'll do one more. Even though I have this physical pain, because of something I did, or maybe something I don't even know that I did, I choose to accept myself anyway. Okay, so let's just go on the top of the head. Okay, this physical pain that I feel in my body. Eyebrows, I'm going to do both hands. You can do one or the other. This physical pain I feel in my body. Side of the eye. This physical pain I feel in my body. Underneath the eye. This physical pain I feel in my body. Under the arm. I am feeling physically hurt. Underneath the lips. My body is telling me something. Something hurts. Either wants me to do something or stop doing something. Collarbone. Even though I have all this physical pain and my body is talking to me, I want to listen to what my body has to say. Okay, underneath the arm. My body's telling me something hurts. It wants me to pay attention. Okay, and then I'll use the two wrists together, right? All of this physical pain in my body is talking to me. Okay, so let's go to the top of the head. Pain, I want to listen to you. Thank you for talking to me. Eyebrow. Thank you for telling me I'm either doing too much or not enough. Right? Side of the eye. Or that I'm holding on to something I should let go of. Okay? Under the eye. Body, I thank you for letting me know I need to do something to take care of myself. And underneath the eye. Underneath the nose. And I choose to let that pain go. Thank you. Okay? Under the lips. I choose to listen to you. I choose to take care of myself. Collarbone. Pain, thank you for giving me a warning. And I'm now listening to you. And I'd like to hear what you have to say. Okay? And under the arm. So pain, I'm going to listen to you as if you're another person talking to me. Okay? And the wrist points. Pain, what do you have to tell me? What do you want me to know? Okay? And then I'd like everybody to say, if you need to close your eyes, just take a second, imagine pain as another person having a conversation with you. And ask it what it wants you to know. And it may come up as a color or an image. It may be a thought. Maybe not even anything. Maybe it'll be silent. But just pay attention. Okay? And then let's just go on top of the head. And just say, pain, thank you for telling me what you had to share with me. Eyebrow. Thank you for sharing with me. Side of the eye. I choose to listen to you. Under the eye. I choose to take care of myself. Under the nose. I choose to give you permission, pain, to relax. Under the lips. I even give you permission to leave. Collarbone. It's okay to be pain-free. It really is. And under the arm, it's really okay for me to let go of this pain and be okay. Okay. And the wrist points, and it's really okay for me to be healthy. Okay. So let's just take a deep breath. I'm going to touch base here. You want to give me an insight here? I'll unmute you. Oops, you have to unmute yourself. No, I can't hear you. You'll find it. There you go.
I got it. My mouse wasn't working. Yeah, the pain is gone. It's zero.
Gone. It's zero. Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you notice as we were just kind of going through the tapping process, just kind of like drift away, or did you feel like you had a little conversation with pain and it was telling you what it needed you to do?
Yeah, in my conversation, it just it advised me not to walk 7 days in a row like I'm used to not doing, not overdo it, and it was hot, so yeah, I overdid it.
Yeah, you overdid it. And then when we were speaking about I'm listening to you, what did it feel like in your body when you started talking about pain? I'm listening to you.
Well, that's when I got the that's when I yawned.
Okay.
And to me, and I'm a tapper, so
Yes, I know you are. Yes.
I know that that was a good response.
Yes. Yes, and yawning is one of many responses we have. Yawning almost and relaxing physically, right? And this is one of the beauties. We can do it very, very simply. And I didn't go with colors and things. This was more like I do a lot when I work with people who have issues. We use colors and images, but this time, and listening to our body, like with Rolando, I asked him, what is your body, pain in your body? What does it have to say? And if we listen to it as if it's another person, it's many times easier for us because we like to think, right? You knew you walked too much, right? But sometimes we don't know. And so this allows, it's like our subconscious to come to the surface and tell us what's going on underneath. And so this is one of the ways that I like using tapping, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an interesting process, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad your pain is down to zero.
Yeah, it really is. My right leg feels great now. It was aching when I sat down here.
Now you're ready to go dancing.
Oh, yeah. I sure am.
Sure. Okay. Let's take a little look at emotional pain. Let's look at a stress or a fear or anger or something along those lines. So I don't know, can you think of, I know we've already done some tapping, so we're already kind of more relaxed, but let's see if we can think about a situation that either caused stress or fear or anger or something like that. And kind of just bring it to mind, and you can just give it a title, just a one-word title if you want. So we don't even have to go through the whole situation. Yeah. So sometimes we can say things like, anger, injustice, fear, and we can just kind of look at that. So if you have one, what's the emotion that's coming up for you, Peggy?
Oh, yeah. I lost a dear friend recently, and sad, still sad.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Scale of 0 to 10. How strong is that sadness?
Oh, I can work it up to a 10.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And where
right,
is it? Yeah.
it's a 5 right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And if you think about that, so let's kind of look at it. We'll use this symbolism this time. So look at it as one, where do you feel it within your body?
My solar plexus,
In your solar plexus. And if it had a color, what color is it?
yellow.
Yellow. Okay. So now we're going to tie a little bit of like the emotional pain is sadness in this case. But feeling your solar plexus, for those who don't know, that's the abdomen, basically, right? And so a lot of times when we have fear as well, we feel that clenching in our belly kind of thing. So now we can start looking at, oh, the emotion is sadness, but there's a physical response in the body, in the solar plexus or in the abdomen, okay? And the color perceived when we look at it just very quickly, the subconscious goes, it's yellow. Okay, so we'll just take advantage of that and use that as another way that we can do tapping. Okay, all right, all right. So I'll have you mute yourself, and then we'll do some more. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Just makes a cleaner recording. Okay, so let's tap on the karate chop point. Even though I have this sadness, I'm okay. Yeah, and even though I don't want to feel sad, it's okay that I feel sad. Yeah. And even though I have this yellow sadness in my solar plexus, I choose to love and accept myself. Okay. So we'll just do a simple round. I like to start with simple things in the beginning, right? Top of the head, this yellow sadness. Okay. Eyebrow, this yellow sadness in my solar plexus. Side of the eye, all of this yellow sadness that I feel underneath the eye. And I have reason to feel sad under the nose. This is a really sad situation. And under the lips. All of this yellow sadness in my abdomen. Collarbone. It's okay to feel the sadness. I have reason to feel the sadness. Okay. And underneath the arm. It's also okay to let go of the sadness and be okay. Okay, let's do the wrist points together. All of this yellow sadness in my abdomen. Solar plexus, I give you permission to release it. Okay, top of the head. Solar plexus, I give you permission to release this sadness. It's okay to be at peace. Eyebrow. Solar plexus, you have permission, you have my permission to release this yellow sadness. Side of the eye. Solar plexus, you have permission to release all of this sadness. Underneath the eye. Body, you have permission to release all of this sadness. Under the nose. I choose to release this sadness. Under the lips. And I choose to have peace of mind. Calmness. Centeredness. Collarbone. It's okay for me to be okay. It's really okay for me to be okay. under the arm. I choose to be okay. Okay. And the wrist points. And I may have other moments of sadness, but I choose to keep releasing them. Okay. Top of the head. Because I choose to be centered and happy. Eyebrow. I choose love. Side of the eye. I choose to fill my abdomen and solar plexus with love. Under the eye. I choose to fill my whole body with love. Underneath the nose. It's really okay for me to feel love, even in this situation. Under the lips. It's okay for me to love myself. Collarbone. It's okay for me to be okay. Under the arm. And I choose to love myself, even when I have moments where I feel sad. And I trade that sadness for love. Because my true being, wrist point, sorry, is I'm filled with love. I am made of love. And I choose that love. And I allow that love to be there. Okay, so let's take a deep breath. Okay. So you want to share, Peggy?
Sure. About halfway through, I did feel an actual relaxation and release. Not like this, because when I think of the sadness, I get like that, tense,
Yeah.
shoulders up. So yeah, I felt the release.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the important thing. And it's like with grief as an example, it's things that will reappear. And many times people think, well, we do this once and I'm done. But here's the simple thing. What do we do? 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 of tapping. And you can take whatever emotion comes up and you can always bring it back. So you always come back to calm centeredness. And so this is helping you, 1, on the emotional level, and 2, on the physical level. So as the emotions relax, then our hormones go back to those regenerative hormones, and it helps our body on the physical level as well as the emotional level. Okay?
Yes, I noticed I could take a deep breath easier.
Yes.
When I feel sad, my chest gets tight.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so this is how we can start looking at, we did the previous one focusing just on a physical tension, and then we did the second one on focusing basically on the emotional one, but they both had an effect on both the physical and the emotional end.
Right.
So they really are tied together, and we can use that to our advantage. So we can look at things from releasing the emotional pain, right, to feel better, or we can sometimes start with some physical ache and also release an emotional pain. So right. The entrance point can be very distinct and very different. We can do it very simply. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't go into all the details. So we just use color and where it was as an easy way to play with the energy, right? And then when you're calmer, if you're working with someone, you can go back, and even with yourself, depending on how well you do tapping on your own. And then you can go through each piece and each detail until none of it has a trigger anymore. Okay? So this is the other thing I like about tapping. It's very, very flexible. Sometimes I don't know what to say. People say, I don't know what to say. Just do what we call continuous tapping. Just tap until everything starts to relax. It may take longer. It may not. But it's always going to start bringing your body into a more relaxed state. And that is always something that's useful and helpful for all of us, okay? So thank you for tapping along with me and for sharing some examples. And so, to kind of like start wrapping up here. So how and when to tap? Well, one of the best times to tap is when you're feeling stressed or when you're feeling pain. A lot of times we wait until it's bad before we do something, right? So I love to walk as well. So sometimes I'm walking and I tend to walk and I just tap on the collarbone point, right? If somebody sees me around, I don't care. I'm doing tapping as I'm walking, right? So I'm utilizing my walking time as a time to also release, okay? make it a routine. I used to always do tapping. One of the first things I did in the morning when I would walk my dog, that was my tapping time, right? Right? Sometimes I do it before I go to sleep to just offload whatever was going on during the day to be calm. I use Tappy Bear a lot, a stuffed bear that has tapping points on it with the children with cancer, because it was a very easy way to connect with children, right? And then another way is, how can you do tapping? Model it, you know. You just start doing it, and most times people will just start doing it with you. So these are some simple ways we can do tapping and create a better situation for ourselves emotionally and physically, particularly when we're going to manage pain or any other situation. Okay? And so I created just a couple little offers. So if anybody who's listening to the talk wants to do a session with me, you can contact me, and I'll just say, oh, I listened to your talk on EFT month, and I'll give you a 25% discount. And I also have monthly tapping sessions in English and Spanish, since I've done both languages for a long time. And then if you want to contact me, I'll send you basically a tapping guide that talks about inner and outer peace. So you can follow along, you have the words, you have the phrases, etc., etc. If anyone wants to learn more about the work I've done and how to take advantage of this sort of tapping for physical situations, I have a book called Tap It, All Better Now, and it's also called The Dragon with Flames of Love. The Dragon with Flames of Love version is in English, Spanish, and French. And you can just go on Amazon and look for it. And in the book, I have information about a little bit what tapping is, how it functions, and then real life stories of how I've done tapping with children. And then I also teach you how to modify the words that we're using in there so that you can start better understanding how to create phrases that fit for your particular situation. You don't have to have cancer to be able to use this. People who are just feeling stressed, open it up and pick a story and start utilizing it. And I do some stories where we're doing a little bit of body talk and how you can talk with your blood cells, how you can talk with your body, how you can talk with your immune system, because I want people to be able to have this dialogue with your body, a conscious dialogue with the body, and work with that. And at the moment, John D. Wittes and I are finishing up a book, and it's called Emotional First Aid for Children. And so that's something that'll be up and coming, and you can just contact me anytime that you would like to. And I will throw out here my contact information. So for me, you know, it's been an honor to participate in this EFT month because, you know, tapping is a fabulous technique. As a scientist, I enjoy it very much because we have this capability to do the research, and the science is showing cortisol levels drop when you use tapping. So we are literally having a conversation with that alert system and helping it go back down into the normal situation. In a normal stress response, react, and then you drop back down into normal. And this is one of the things that we need to do in this somewhat crazy world we live in right now, where even when there isn't a stressful situation, we create stress. And so we can look at it. Any pain that comes up, an emotional pain or physical pain, we can pay attention to it and we can do something about it. You know, so we're not helpless. We have tools, we have ways that we can manage pain and actually listen to it and hear its story, because it is really our body communicating to us in the only way, one of the only ways that it can, right? It opens up an expansion when we're happy and joyous and feels loose and flexible. And then those pains and aches and that contraction is also telling us a story. It's our body speaking the language the body speaks. And so then we can learn and utilize tapping to hear what our body is trying to tell us. And it's always telling us a beautiful story, you know, because it wants us to feel good. And so then we can work in conjunction with our body to release pain and create health and just lots of love and lots of joy and live a very, very wonderful life. So I thank you all for being here. I thank everyone who's going to listen later, and many, many blessings. Much luck with your life. And I hope that tapping becomes a regular practice in your life. So. Stop.